Sohil, Akanksha, Aditri. Very nice to see you guys. Very happy to see your regularity for this class. So before we proceed, I'll just quickly do the pranam mantra and then we can start. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupam Kadamayam Dadanti Swapadantikam हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेशा गोपिका कांत राधकांता नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणनामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवास आदि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे Hare Krishna. All right. So let's begin today's class. Last class, we were touching on the three modes of material nature, and I'd asked everyone to have a read through it because, like I said, that chapter was very relevant and it could be put in practicality in our daily lives. So, did anyone have a read through the chapter 14 of the three modes of material nature, even briefly, like a couple of verses or something like that? Here and there. What about this verse, 4.18? Anybody had to read through it? Shohail. What about, I know Aditri also. Yeah, okay, all of you. Very good. So, Aditri, can you give me like a brief understanding of it, like very short, in the couple of sentences? What was your idea of this?
I honestly don't know, but I think, I don't know to be honest, but from
Whatever,
what I,
whatever you understood. It
okay,
doesn't. It's not a test.
okay. I feel like, in our daily life, there's like a lot of situations in which, um, if we act in a detached way, for instance, like if you're helping someone and then you're helping by thinking that, you're basically doing um, it for the pleasure of Krishna instead of gaining fame or for prestige or anything like that. For instance, if you're helping someone in getting the job and then someone praises you and you don't feel happy or like you don't feel pride, sorry, and then you see that you just think that I'm doing it for the pleasure of Krishna. Like the I feel like the intention matters. Um, and even if you're like doing whatever, but doing in a way that's detached and um, basically for spiritual advancement. And what was the sloka again? Sorry, I have to look.
No,
Okay.
that's good. I got like you got most of the points correct. I don't know why you're saying that. I don't understand because you're pretty in line with what the puppet is given. What about Shohil? What did you have a read through it? And if so, in your own words, in a couple of sentences, what did you understand?
I don't understand as well that well. My like understanding is like they can give up something physically, but if you still think about it mentally, it's still like considered a sin and a bad thing. For example, like a person with anger issues, for example, they try to be good and like and a person does something to you. Physically, you won't be mad, but mentally, like you will still have like bad thoughts about it, and then like that can still lead to a sin because it's still considered anger, but in a more mental state.
Hmm.
That's my
Okay.
understanding of the circle.
No, that's also pretty correct. And Akanksha, what about you? What have you understood from this verse? You're on mute, Akanksha. Yeah.
Not much, um, but what I understood is that if doing something, like before doing something, if we surrender that work consciously onto the Krishna, the results, whether it's a failure or it's a success, it will not affect us, and that will not include that, like whatever the conclusion is it will not affect our karma side, because
Okay.
these days we are more inclined towards the materialistic nature rather than spiritual. So it's very important that intentionally we do this, like, okay, I'm surrendering this to Krishna. Like, this is
Yes, no,
what.
no, you are absolutely correct. I'm very happy. You got like most of the points that I was hoping you would say. You said this is the main thing. So as we get into it, we'll get Priya. Welcome to Wednesday class. Very happy to see you, Priya. We are all basically just sharing. If you did you go through the this verse 4.18, and if so, if you could share like your understanding.
Yeah, I did go through it a little bit, but I'm a little bit confused on this one myself. But um,
That's fine. Whatever you understand of it, there's
yeah,
no
okay.
right or wrong. Yeah.
So, at first, one who sees in action is intelligent man, and he is the transcendental position, although engaged in all sort of activities. Okay, so first of all, this verse remind me with for the another verse as well, like the Karmane Vadikaraste one, the one where
Yes.
we
Mahafalesh.
don't be engaged to your fruits of the action and just do your action. This verse reminded me of on that as well.
Correct. Correct.
And this one says, like, I feel like this verse wanted to tell us that we need to be conscious of our own action at the first and foremost. And like in conscious of our action means like if we are doing the action for ourselves, for the material goods, or are we doing the action for the Krishna, like and the second one is like I think it means that whenever we think that we are not doing anything, in that state of being, or in that state of mind also, we are doing something, like even in our in action also there is an action, it means like. So
Yeah.
and in some way, like even if we are doing and doing something, and it means nothing because we are not doing it for the Krishna, for Krishna, or something like that.
Yep.
So I think that basically denotes that in action, yeah.
Yep.
Like
Yep. No,
I think
that's pretty
like that.
good enough. No, no, that's pretty good. I'm very happy. All of you were very correct about that. That means that all of you have definitely had a good read through this verse, because all of you on point. Akanksha, Priya, Shohel, Aditri, all of you touched on like the main points of this verse. So let's get into it. Let's talk more in depth. Like all of you were right, but this is like a also very deep verse because there's a lot to understand. So without any delay, let's start. कर्मणे अकर्मया पश्येत् अकर्मणि च कर्मया सा बुद्धिमान् मनुष्येषु सा युक्ता कृत्स्न कर्म कृत्. So quickly, can I get who wants to read Sanskrit? I'll give you guys the option. See, the more you read Sanskrit, the more better you can give. And one trick is if just read in your own, don't try to rush into it. Read it easily, like break down each word so you'll understand it also. So, okay, nobody, no volunteers. So now I'll have to volunteer something. Let's see. Priya, why don't you read the Sanskrit?
uh,
I know you didn't want to read it. You were turning your face away. So I said, now so you have to read it.
it's a little bit hard.
It's fine. It's
But
fine.
कर्मण्ये कर्मये पश्येय पश्येद कर्मणि च कर्म यः स बुद्धिमान्य मनुष्यसु संयुक्तः कृत्स्नं कर्मकृत्.
Very good. All okay. Let's see. Aditri, can you read the translation, please?
Okay. So the one who sees in action and action in inaction and is intelligent among men, and he is in the transcendental position, although engaged in all sort of activities.
Okay, perfect. So one who sees action in inaction and inaction in action and action in inaction is intelligent among men. Who speaks Hindi? Anybody speaks Hindi? Akanksha, you speak Hindi. Priya, you speak Hindi. What does buddhiman mean in general?
Buddhiman means who is intelligent, who
Yes,
have.
correct. Correct. So one who sees action in inaction and sorry, inaction and action, and action and inaction. So what is action and inaction that is being referred to by Krishna in this verse? What is it that he's trying to explain to us when he's talking about action, inaction and action, and action and inaction in all these activities? So now, actually, you know what? We'll get the purport going so that then I can just break on that, because this kind of explains it. Akanksha, can you read till Krishna? Also, you're on mute.
A person acting in Krishna consciousness is naturally free from the bonds of karma. His activities are all performed for Krishna. Therefore, he does not enjoy or suffer any of the effects of work. Consequently, he is intelligent in human society, even though he is engaged in all sorts of activities for Krishna.
Correct. So, before we get into this verse, the main word to understand, as you can see in this verse also, is karma. What is karma basically? Now, karma is any action that we perform. All actions that we perform are called karma. Karma literally means action. So, now in the Vedas, in the scriptures, karma is broken into three parts. One is karma, just the word karma, which means that you perform an action based on the rules, the scriptural injunctions given to us. Like a person, a doctor, for example, his karma is to treat his patients. So he, he performs that action for the betterment of his society to perform as per his prescribed duties. That is what karma is. A student, his karma is to study. That is what he's supposed to do. When a student does that, it's called karma. Karma in general means it's in some way sort of a positive action that gives you pious result. Now, what is now the second part is vikarma. Vikarma is action which is deliberately against the injunctions of the scriptures, where you purposely do something for your own selfish material gain. Where supposing like a banker, he or some like a student, for example, let's use a student's example. He's supposed to study for the exam, he cheats in that exam. Or if we go in a even more like a person who robs and kills people, he does things which are not as per the scriptural injunctions. He does it for his own selfish material gains, and in return he gets sins. It's sinful activity basically. He incurs sins. And then the last one is akarma. Akarma means inaction. Akarma is done when a person does it selflessly in a sense of devotion and offers the result to Krishna, which basically means that the person is not affected by the negative or the positive. He just does it to please Krishna because it is done as a duty to Krishna. So any action that he does not have any pious credit or impious credit. It is done purely as a devotional service to the Lord. Now, why is pious activity bad? I can understand impious activity is bad. Okay, I do sinful activity, and in the Vedic scriptures it says that impious activity will eventually lead you to hellish planets. If you see the planetary system, leads you to hellish planets. If you do good activities, it leads you to the heavenly planets. This is not even like in Vedas. Everywhere you hear this, you must have heard it in school or something. You do good things, you go to heaven. You do bad things, you go to hell. That's the simplified way of understanding it. But in the Vedas, they go more deep into it, where you perform pious activities. You also have to take a birth again to enjoy those results of your pious activities. Where a person, like in earlier days, they used to perform yagnas, sacrifices, to reach higher heavenly planets. They used to there were actually like Vedic injunctions on how to perform these activities, and the result was that you could reach higher planetary systems which are higher than this earth platform. In that, where a person has very long lifespan, and he has much more senses that he can enjoy. But the negative side to this is that he eventually, even though he lives a very long life, he'll live for thousands and thousands of years. Eventually, he has to be reborn. Like once his pious credit is over, he's again reborn in this platform of earth, based on, and then again he has to collect karmas, and then depending on that, he gets the next life. Impious activities, this is a no-brainer. If you do sinful activities, there are hellish planets where a human being is supposed to suffer, and then you go to you get a body also accordingly to, you know it's like a lower being, like insect's body, a bird's body, based on your desires and your activities, you get that kind of body. So both activities is what Krishna is saying is one should avoid. And what we should be performing is akarma. Akarma means without action, without work. So basically is that you do these performances, you're doing your duties as per you're supposed to do, but without the desire for the fruitive results, without any selfish motive behind it. You're doing it simply because it is done to please the Lord. Now examples of these are, for example, I can give you Vikarma. The best example is in Mahabharata, Duryodhan, he plotted and schemed to steal all the land from the Pandavas. Throughout the Mahabharata, if you see, ever since the beginning of Mahabharata, when they were small kids, Duryodhan used to plot how to push Bhima. He called Bhima over. He fed him some food, and in that he had mixed poison because he knew Bhima was the strongest, and Bhima was giving the toughest competition to the Kaurav. So what he did was he gave poison, and he and Dushasan, they pushed him into a river. So that's one story. Then throughout the Mahabharata, some way or the other, he's just trying to steal the kingdom from the Pandavas, even though they were the rightful heir. So he is doing it out of his own selfish desires, and at the end, he gets the sinful reactions for that. It results in death. It results in suffering. It results in loss of a lot of his loved ones. So that is vikarma, where you're doing something against what is your prescribed duty, and you're doing it simply to gratify your senses, simply for your selfish desires, and then you're suffering the sinful reaction for it. uh, karma, one example can be given is, like I said, a doctor, a person who's basically doing his duty as he's supposed to do. But again, karma is also has got some kind of selfish desire, because the person is trying to get some profit from that. He's trying to do it because of a particular motive. He's not doing it selflessly. Akarma, the best example in the Bhagavad Gita itself, we can see Arjuna. Now, Arjuna fought the Mahabharata. He killed so many people, but still, like he killed thousands, not even thousands, he killed millions of people. The number of people he killed, they said that by the time Mahabharata was done, the entire land became red, the soil became red. In fact, if you go to the place where Mahabharata happened, even today you'll see the soil is red. The rivers became full red because of the blood. There was that much bloodshed in the war. Arjuna killed like most of them on his own, just alone. Yet he didn't get any karma, even though you might think that he might be incurring a lot of sin. He might be for killing another man. However, he doesn't incur any sin because he was following the instruction of the Supreme Lord. He was performing in accordance to the order of the Supreme Lord. Arjuna, in fact, this is where I reach on the action inaction part, where Arjuna actually at the beginning of Mahabharata, of the war, if you see in the beginning of Bhagavad Gita, he actually tells Krishna that isn't it sinful to kill so many of my own relatives, my family members, all of that. I will incur a lot of sin. In fact, I should do inaction. What is inaction? He said, I will go to the Himalayas. I should become renunciant. I will give up all my material desires and simply sit and meditate on nothing, and I'll leave all that. What will I do with all this war? And even if I win the kingdom, what's the point? I've killed everybody. But then Krishna orders him that no, what makes you think that all of a sudden now you want to become a renunciate? Your duty is to perform. You're a Kshatriya. Kshatriya means a person who needs to fight in the war for the protection of his kingdom. It's your duty. It is Krishna's order. He ordered Arjuna that you must fight. That is your devotional service, that you must fight as per my order, because he knew that Krishna, it was Krishna's entire plan to have the war in the first place. He saw the larger good, and we are supposed to act as instruments to his plan. Arjun was supposed to act as an instrument to his plan. So he said, "It is your duty to fight the war. You fight it. That is your devotional service. Don't think that by doing renunciation or going to the Himalayas, all of a sudden you become to going to become this very saintly person. You become a saintly person through shooting an arrow. So that is what is meant by in action, where one person, even though he's performing an activity, he is not doing it for his own personal desire. Arjuna had no desire to get the kingdom. He had no material gain from the entire war. He simply did it for the pleasure of the Lord, for as a part of performing his prescribed duties. Before we move ahead, we should just read another line of the purport so we can get a better understanding. So Shohail, can you read Karma to, let's see, Krishna consciousness?
Akarma means without reaction to work. The impersonalist traces fruitive activities out of fear, so that the resultant action may not be a stumbling block on the path of self-realization, but the personalist knows rightfully his position as the eternal servitor of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, he engages himself in the activities of Krishna consciousness.
Correct. So akarma means without reaction to work. Now, easy way is akarma means what action inaction means is that outwardly he might look inactive. He might look like he's not doing anything. But even though there's no physical action, he is performing action through mental contemplation. We see people who are in meditation, who are sitting and doing japa. To an external person, it might look like this guy is not doing anything, he's just sitting over there. But even in his inaction, there is action, because mentally he's absorbed in the thought of the Supreme Lord. He's constantly absorbed in transcendental, meditation on the Lord. So that is inaction in action. Uh, so a person while meditating, japa, somebody, even if you see like somebody who's planning contemplation, you see a lot of people just sitting and thinking. Now thinking might look like an inaction to an external person, but thinking also is action. Even though he's not physically active, he's not physically doing anything, he's still performing an action. In fact, there's no such, nobody can exist in this world without performing any karma. Even if you sit that you think that you're sitting and not doing anything, sitting and meditating. Breathing also is karma. Sitting, walking around, just because you think I can give up everything and stay in my house, even then that is karma. Because
Thinking is also karma.
yes, thinking is also karma. However, in the Kali Yuga, the results of because since in Kali Yuga everybody's mind is always disturbed, you don't get much sinful reaction for thinking. But however, thinking also is karma. Like I think Gansham Prabhu also had touched on this topic. If you think in your dream or something, you get a vision where you're doing something bad, like you're physically hurting something, or you have a lusty thought or something like that. It is because your consciousness is there, so you get the sinful reaction for that, because your consciousness is on that level. That means you're operating on that. So thinking in a way also is got bad karma. For example, now this is what inaction in action means. Right now, even though four people are sitting together, they're in front of them, they're laughing and acting like they're very nice with each other, but inside they're just burning with hatred. They're like, I hate this person, I hope he never get successful, burning in jealousy, throwing curses at them and all that. You think that's not karma? You think that is not action? He's performing action. Even though it's not physical, even though you can't see it, he's performing action. And he's also getting sinful. What horrible thoughts people get about other people. And we see that only few people who actually do it are the ones with that. But so many in their brains, they have done all sorts of horrible, sinful activities. So that is what we understand. Now, what is action in inaction? Before that, I think we should understand, like, what is action in inaction means that people who you say that a lot of people have heard saying that, oh, why are monks using MacBooks? Why are, saintly people or people in this Hare Krishna movement using all these facilities? They're traveling in airplanes, they're traveling in cars, they're using laptop, they're using microphone. Why is that? Why aren't you supposed to be renunciants? Now, renunciant means that you're renouncing from the result, from the material desire of it. Like, we're not using laptop for our own personal satisfaction. We're not traveling on an airplane just to holiday. Everything is being done for the pleasure of Krishna, for the, as part of spreading Krishna consciousness, uh, performing that activity for the pleasure of Krishna. So that is, even though he's in action, he still is not getting any negative or any karmic reaction for that, because he is not doing it for his own personal desire. He's doing it as per the order of the Lord. Now, one thing we need to understand this, from this purport, we get like a lot of different ideas of what it could mean, and we try to, put our own assumptions into it. But we need to understand the main platform of why karma is done in the first place. Every person, including you and me, we all do karma for two things. I mean, karma leads to two things: suffering and enjoyment. Each one of us, we do karma for assumingly we think that it's going to give us enjoyment. For example, we are working, we are, studying, we are doing some sort of activity. Why are we doing that? Because we think, oh, from this job I can get money, from this money I will travel to this country, or from this money I'll buy the latest iPhone. We have some sort of desire, we think that that is enjoyment. However, in our scriptures, it's given that this material world is Dukkhalyam Ashwashatam. Dukkhalyam means a land of misery, and Ashwashatam means a temporary place. Everything is temporary. Everything that you can achieve in this material world is going to go eventually, including this body. This body is nothing but something that we have borrowed from Mother Earth on a rent, like on a lease period. We have it for a certain amount of time. It's not like permanently you can stay in this body. Even this body is going to go. So eventually, everything that you've acquired in this material world will go. They say, like, this is a very common saying, that a rich man cannot carry his gold coins to the cemetery, to the graveyard. Even you come from dust, you're going to go into dust. So the real sense of it is that in this material platform, there is nothing that you can really get, which is enjoyment. All the actions that you do result in suffering only. For example, a businessman, he slogs day and night. He's working overtime. He neglects his family. He's just fully, trying to make his business successful and all that. And he spend his entire, we see people who spend day and night, 30, 40 years of their lives just doing that. And then for enjoyment, what do they do? At night, they go to a bar, or they go to, a nightclub. They drink wine, and they, indulge in women and all that. That is material platform enjoyment. Women and wine. That is the idea of material. Because our entire idea of enjoyment in this material platform is sense gratification, not knowing that we are not even part of this body. We are the thing that we have thought of as this body is not even us. So our entire idea of enjoyment is completely in wrong. It's natural human instinct to have these kind of desires, to have this desire to enjoy. All of us want to enjoy. There's nobody who says that, okay, I purposely want to, suffer. I want to enjoy. We might think that, okay, I want to work hard and have to do sacrifices. But if you ask them, why are you working hard and why are you doing these sacrifices? That is also actually the desire is to enjoy. The desire is some sort of pleasure. In the scriptures, in the Vedic society, Vedic civilization, they understood this very well. They understood and they gave it very clearly that our only real enjoyment is trying to understand what God is. Once you understand God, God is supreme. God is the essence of everything. Once you understand God, you know everything. Like, philosophy, science, everything, because God is the source of everything. Everything emanates from Him. So the Vedas have clearly given it. Athato Brahma Jigyasa, the purpose of this human life, where we have got this elevated intelligence, is to understand the actual relation of us with Lord. That is the only enjoyment we can have. That when we endeavor in those activities, that will lead to our actual enjoyment. All the rest is simply sense gratification, where we are in this illusion where we are enjoying, but in reality we are just suffering. A person, smokes throughout the time, he's thinking he's enjoying, and then a few years later he gets cancer, and it's all suffering. That is nothing but maya, like we said. Aditri, can you ask me that question at the end of the class because I'm on a time shortage? I'll get back to you very soon. So the Vedic civilization understood this. Every human being has this tendency to enjoy, and it's even actually very scientifically broken down. What are these sense of enjoyments that we have? These sense gratifications, predominantly from like 5,000 years ago to the present age. These are the five main things that, sorry, four main things that each of us endeavor in. First is meat eating. Meat eating, where basically we want to do pleasure at tongue. So people, even in those days, used to do animal slaughter and used to eat the meat. Meat eating. Then there's sex, and then there's intoxication, and then there's working extremely hard to achieve all of these. So man, even in Australia, I see like so many people at my work. They work Monday to Friday, and then you ask them what are you planning to do in the weekend. Oh, I'll go to the pub and I'll drink. And then again, they drink, they're completely sloshed out. On Monday, they just start that same cycle again. It's a repeated cycle, and they're thinking that they're enjoying. It's like, how many of you have seen that hamster in a wheel where they'll like tie a cheese? The hamster is thinking that he's getting closer to the cheese, so he starts running, and it's a wheel. So that cycle just keeps on making him running through and through, and he's not even getting the cheese because the cheese is stuck on a rope. He thinks that cheese is right in front of him, so he starts walking towards the cheese, and the wheel starts moving. It's similar with all living entities in this in today's time. Is that man is 24/7 engaging in hard working extremely hard, taking overnight shifts, doing this, doing that, simply thinking that I will enjoy from this. But in reality, there's no enjoyment. There's simply suffering. The Vedic society understood this, and they tried to regulate all of this. How did they try to regulate? Sex was regulated by marriage. Okay, you have sexual, desires. You get married. You regulate it because the essential goal is how. Because the more you involve yourself in material pleasures, the material desires, the more you get entangled into it. Our idea is to completely remove ourselves, distance ourselves, detach ourselves from those kind of activities, from those kind of desires, and get into the real purpose as per given in the Vedas, which is understanding Lord, pleasing the Lord. Now the Vedas have understood this very clearly, so they gave us marriage, they gave us eating also. You offer it as prasadam and you eat. It's all very regulated, and it's eventually to detach the living entity from his material body as much as we can. So nothing is nothing is denied. It's not like you can't have sex, it's not like you can't eat whatever you feel, you can't eat. Even in Krishna consciousness, we say, it's nobody's saying that you give up eating. You give up eating meat because, as per scriptures, and there is so much scientific proof why meat is bad for you. Our body, our teeth also are herbivorous teeth. We are not meant to eat non-veg. Our system cannot survive on non-veg. It's meant for vegetarian diet. Even the best, athletes, Sylvester Stallone, Rambo, that guy, he's vegetarian, and look at his body. So our system, our human system, needs to is designed to have vegetarian. It's given in the scriptures also that there's sinful reaction to non-veg. However, person simply to gratify his tongue wants to engage in meat eating, simply to now it's completely irregulated. Sex is the most abused thing these days. Everything is over sexualized. That is what's going on because we are in this constant loop of over sense gratification. So that's what the Vedas were trying to regulate. Vedic civilization, everything was regulated, nothing was denied, everything was done as per a certain boundary, and a certain how do you say it, in a certain framework. You don't do whatever you feel like, you do it, and always you're focused on the main goal of this human life, which is God realization, God understanding, and performing. Now, to understand what action in inaction, sorry, inaction in action means is inaction in action. A soldier, when he goes in the battlefield, he kills thousands of people. And for killing those thousands of people, the government gives him medals. You actually have those, like you'll see if you see any military man's coat, he has different badges based on like the guy who's killed a lot of people on sniper. They get even rankings based on that. The more number of people you've killed, the more missions you've cleared, whatever, you get that higher badge or whatever. So soldier kills thousands of people, the government gives him an award. However, the same soldier, supposing he comes back home and he's in a bar or something and he gets into an argument and he just punches the guy, and he punches him so hard the guy is flat out dead. He killed one person, immediately he is hanged. Now the soldier might go to the court and say, when I was killing thousands of people, that time you gave me a medal. Now I killed only one person, you're putting me into jail, you're ruining my entire life. But the reason why he didn't incur any negative reaction, he didn't wasn't punished for his killing thousands of people was because he was performing, as because it was his duty. He was a soldier. His duty was to perform in that action, was to fight the enemy, and he was acting in accordance to the superior. His superior, the commanding officer, gave him that order that you shoot these people, and he did it. Similarly, when a living entity performs any action as per the order of the superior, who's the superior? The Supreme Personality of Godhead, or Krishna. When we do that, then we don't incur the negative reactions, the positive or the negative reactions. It's simply action. It's on the transcendental position. What is transcendental position? Where it's beyond good and bad, where it's beyond positive and negative. Like I said, even positive, you can enjoy that. Like, so for example, you work very hard to run a particular business. You make a lot of endeavors to make your business successful. At the end of your life, you are able to complete it. Now Krishna says, if you open Bhagavad Gita chapter 3 verse 16, if you quickly have a look, uh, so it says that, actually let me see if I can open this over here. We'll have a look quickly. Yep. Let's see. Aditri, can you read the translation only?
Um, the one on the screen.
Yeah, just
My
the
dear,
translation.
my dear Arjuna, one who does not follow in human life the cycle of sacrifice, thus established by the Vedas, certainly leads a life full of sin. Living only for the satisfaction of the senses, such a person lives in vain.
Exactly. So this verse gives us exactly why what we are currently doing in the idea, so-called idea of enjoyment, is actually causing our suffering. Because a person who performs activities simply in for sense gratification has got nothing but misery. It's like the soldier, when he punched that person, he did it for his own selfish need. The person in the bar insulted him, he took it on his false ego, and then he replied back by hurting. He did it for his selfish motive. Whenever we do an action in selfish motive, it immediately is, you either have a good a positive feedback or a negative feedback. But at the end of the day, you are going to get that feedback. Even if you do not a positive action, thinking that you're going to enjoy that benefit, you aren't able to complete it in this life. In the next life, you're given a suitable environment to complete that. But again, that you have to take a birth again to complete that action, whatever your desire was. You'll see a lot of people, maybe in this life they wanted to be a singer, they weren't able to become a singer in this life. You'll see a lot of people, 5 6 year old, all of a sudden they put one video on YouTube and they become very popular, very famous. Why is that? It is called prarabdh karma, previous lives karma, which gets carried on. Where now, since you had the desire to become a singer, Krishna fulfills the desire. He gives you a platform where you suddenly rise to fame. They say God given talent. Why is that God given talent there? Because that individual had that previous desire to get that. He did certain amount of action to achieve that desire, and in that lifetime he wasn't able to do it, so in the next lifetime he was given a body. At the same time, he is given a body. That's the downside. And once you got a material body, it can go either way. Even though he might be a singer initially, there's no saying what will lead up to him at the end of that lifetime. He might now fall down. You see a lot of singers, childhood prodigies. Once they become childhood prodigies, they get into all sorts of wrong activities. Good example of that is the guy from Home Alone. Have you seen Home Alone movie? Yes, that Home Alone, I forgot his name. That guy was like a child prodigy. He was like 10 years old or whatever when he made that movie, and he became super famous. Like, he was on every interview, every magazine. He was like the star kid, the child prodigy who's broken all the records. And then we see that same person, he was like he had serious drug addiction problem when he grew up. So that's why, even though we might think that oh wow, why wouldn't I will try to perform some good activity, and in the next life I'll enjoy that. That sounds like a good deal. You might enjoy it, but that in everything in this material world is temporary. Nothing is permanent. So you might enjoy it for a short while, and will be so-called enjoyment. It's not like you guaranteed going to enjoy it. It's an assumption that you might enjoy it. And then you have to deal with the karma, you have to deal with the consequences. So our focus should be akarma. Akarma means action simply for as per the prescribed duties. Now, Everybody understood so far? Anyone has any questions? Aditya, you had one question, you can ask me.
I forgot my question.
Okay, that's all right. Okay, let's move on. Where did we stop? I think we stopped at is it Akarma? Okay, let's do this. Sorry, Krishna consciousness we stopped. Okay, let's see. Akanksha, can you read the last bit, highlighted part? Akanksha, I think your microphone is up, so we can't hear you properly. Yeah, yeah.
Because everything is done for Krishna, he enjoys only transcendental happiness in the discharge of this service. Those who are engaged in this process are known to be without desire for personal sense gratification. The sense of eternal servitorship to Krishna makes one immune to all sorts of reactionary elements of work.
Okay. Shohel, can you tell me what compact means? Do you know the word compact and what does it mean?
Compact, like, are you talking about where like there's like I don't know how to give a definition of it.
Like
Like,
your idea, or give like an example or something, or what compact means.
uh,
When I'm talking about compact, I'm trying to give it in the sense
yeah,
of
like what do you mean
enclosed. Enclosed.
enclosed?
Yeah.
Oh, that okay. Uh, like like something like packed together, like neat.
Yes, yes, yes,
Like
yes.
now I can say, yeah.
Compact. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So compact is enclosed basically. Like right now you're in this room. You're in this room. You compacted in this room. It means that you're enclosed. You're not completely open. You're not completely free. Similarly, us as individual souls, we are compact in this body. And one who is unable to realize that he is in this, or we can say we're compact in this universe, we're compact on this earth, we're compact in this material platform. In some way or the other, we're entrapped, we're enclosed, we're caged. And one who does not realize this and simply believes, like forgets about in this compact position, and he's simply trying to gratify his compact position, which is the senses. He's called in the Vedas Griha Medi. He cannot see the Atma Tattva. He cannot, make action towards self-realization, and that we see so much in today's society. People have started believing everything is advertised as pleasure of senses. Nobody is actually trying to make an endeavor to understand their true essential position or the true essential platform. It's just simply, it's marketing scheme, and then the people who simply following for this marketing scheme, where a good idea in today's time of relaxation is what you work 9 to 5 throughout, you do it for so many months, then you earn money, you go on this trip where it's like everything is decided for you already. This is your enjoyment. Oh, you want to do the work 9 to 5, then you at night you go to this bar and you drink. And people, without even using their intelligence, is simply doing it like robots, without understanding that they're simply pleasing their senses in the sense of false enjoyment. That is called grihamedi, one who's unable to make endeavors towards understanding self-realization, and then obviously understanding about God. Now, Aditri, you had your hand raised. Do you have a question?
Before I forget, I know it's very weird question. I don't know if it makes sense or not. Like,
No, no, go ahead.
what happens to people who are like mad, like whose brain doesn't function properly? Like,
Yeah.
for instance, like one of my friends is doing Masters of Clinical Psychology. I'm
Hmm.
doing bachelor's though. Um, she works with me, and then like what she mentioned about like people having mental health problems, and so one of the patients, I mean, that she was working with had got OCD. I don't know if you have heard about it.
Yes, yes, I know.
And some people, she mentioned that they have like very obsessive thoughts, and some
Hmm.
thoughts can be very bad, like superstitious or OCD,
Hmm.
like. And they don't have the control over their thoughts. And for those kind of people, does how does this karma work for those kind of people? Like, they might not have that intention, but then those thoughts are just coming and then going. I mean,
Yeah, so all
yeah.
these in today's time, especially whatever I'm not taking a hit on mental illness or anything like that, but any mental illness, if you see the deep down result, it's because of these, in a way or some way, sense gratification, selfish desires without understanding the true essence. Once one understands the true essence, all this naturally will not be a consequence, because these are caused only because of your reluctantness or your lack of interest or your ignorance towards the supreme personality of godhead. Anyone who's detached, sorry for that, anyone who's completely avoiding the actual purpose of this human life, and he thinks that, okay, I want to continue my life in a happy enjoyable way, that's not going to happen. Maya takes over very quickly, and Maya attacks you in all sorts of ways or the other. You think you can do anything and you can get away with it, but that's not how it works. This material world is suffering. This material world is that when you perform activities and then you think, like, I'll tell you an example. A lot of people abuse drugs a lot and they think that they're not going to happen. A lot of people were doing psychedelics, LSD and this and that, and they experiment with that, and they after a point think that we can do anything, it's just a free world, we can do anything. This lack of understanding that everything incurs a sinful reaction, everything has a reaction to it, they completely ignore this fact and they completely go ahead with that. And those same people who used to do these psychedelics, they ended up with all sorts of miserable mental illnesses, schizophrenia, where you start imagining things and this and that, and OCD in a much more magnified way, where they were started overthinking everything. The brains were absolutely fried, they couldn't think of anything, they weren't even practically sane after a point. That is why, because they have overindulged in sense gratification. They've completely avoided using this intelligence for the actual reason why we given this, for self realization, for god realization. Instead of they ignored that and they went ahead for sense gratification. And then there's always your karma, which is coming back to you. Nobody overthinks just like that. Nobody's born an overthinker. If you see small kids like 5-year-olds and all that, none of them are overthinkers. They're all just playing around. They're all very free and all of us also, at one point we were kids and we were just roaming around, playing around and all. There was no overthinking or anything like that. When do you start overthinking? When you perform too many actions and now you start getting it. A person who, a businessman who has cheated in his company, he's always trying to scam people. You see so many pharmaceutical companies where they forge the laboratory results to get a medicine approved, and they think nothing is going to happen. Even though they're enjoying material benefits from that, their mind is not going to be in peace, because their mind is continuously now going to bother them, that you've cheated, what if this happens, what if that happens. Their mind becomes their biggest enemy. A person who, like we said in that other verse, a person who simply uses his activities for sense gratification, he incurs all sorts of sinful reaction. So all these mental illnesses, all these illnesses are why these are sinful reactions to your activities. Where a person thought that I can get away with this, I can do anything, and or drug dealers, for example. Drug dealers, if you see, they're always on the run. They're not stable in one place. They're going from this country to that. They're changing houses, and they're always changes. Even though they might materially look very wealthy, they're driving in big fancy luxurious cars, because drug dealing is, they have made a lot of money through drug dealing. But they're mentally they're always tense. Mentally they're always these overthinking and these thoughts that are attacking them, and it completely ruins a person from inside, breaks down the person. And why is that? That is the reaction to their activities, a sinful reaction to their activities. So any sort of these problems that I hear, they are all reactions. Nothing happens just as it is. Nobody's born an overthinker, nobody's born a schizophrenic. All happens because of some sort of reaction. However, these reactions also can be transcended by understanding the supreme, which is the actual purpose. A good example, like I said, a person who experiments with psychedelics, for example. When the Hare Krishna movement had started and Prabhupada had gone to America, most of the people at that time were into psychedelics. They were taking LSD, marijuana, all sorts of things like that. And Prabhupada, when he preached to them, a normal person would say, why are you even bothering? These guys are completely hopeless. What's the point of even caring about them? But when he started preaching, immediately, very quickly, you'll see those same people completely gave up their bad habits and they made very steady progress in Krishna consciousness. Why? Because that is the essence, that is what the soul is thirsty for, that's what it's looking for. We are looking for pleasure. The only thing is we don't know where to search for pleasure. We are trying to search it in all sorts of nonsensical ways, and in reaction we are get suffering the consequences. However, when the soul gets what it actually wants, which is understanding of Supreme Lord, understanding of, I mean, God realization, automatically the soul then gives up all the the previous activities he does, and he take endeavors in this. Why does he do that? Like chanting Hare Krishna, why do people spend so much time chanting? Because they're getting that higher taste, they're getting that ecstatic feeling which everybody's looking for, that joy that they're looking for. They're getting that because that's the actual prescribed way of getting that. That is action, inaction in action, where even though externally they look like they're not performing any activity, internally their mind and they're completely engaged in service to the Lord, understanding the Lord. So these hippies also very quickly they became brahmacharis, they became sannyasis, they started remembering shlokas, they gave up all these intoxicants, meat eating. They used to, earlier these guys used to be like women hunters, they used to look at women in a very lustful manner. The same people were now would completely, their mind was taken out of all these nonsensical paths and they were completely focused on the Lord. That is what every one of us are also looking for. We are looking for pleasure, we're looking for happiness, we just don't know where to search them. We're searching it in nonsensical places and then we're suffering the consequences. In reality, God realization is what is Akarma, and God realization is what is this duty of every living entity in this human body. Now, one more thing that was mentioned here was, where did it go? A, a impersonalist seizes fruitive activities out of fear. Now you'll see a lot of people in India. It's actually very common. These people who so-called sannyasi babas or so-called, they are called karma sannyasis, where they think that if I do any sorts of activities, I will incur some sort of negative reaction. So hey, why do I even perform any activities at all? I can just chill, bro. I can go in the hills and that's what so many of these so-called babajis do. They go to Himalayas and they smoke charas and all that, and they think they are like very great saints. But or they just cease fruitive activity. They just go into a cave or something and completely cease fruitive activities because cease performing actions. But even that is a result, because they think that the action is a stumbling block in the path of self-realization. But even that is an issue, because they are thinking that they're not performing activities. They're thinking I'm going in the hills and not doing anything, I'm simply smoking and I'm having a good life and I'm not getting any karma. No sir, you are going to get karma, because even in your inaction there's some sort of action. Now even you could have used this body in performing so many activities in betterment of society. You're just using it as a mode of escapism. You think that's not going to incur sin? Escapism is never going to make you free from actions or reactions. It's in fact, even escapism or not doing nothing is also a reaction. But like when a person is getting murdered, if the third person is there, he witnessed everything, but he doesn't do anything, he doesn't report the police, he simply stands and looks at them. Even he's as liable in court, because he didn't he it was his job to go and report the crime. He just simply stood there. He's a witness and he didn't even say. So the court assumes that he was part of the crime. That's what happens with people of these impersonalists. Impersonalists think that simply they say Jagat Maya Brahm Satya hai, which means that this world and all these actions and all you guys who are going to office and all that are working very hard and trying to maintain families, all this is Maya. Simply try to sit in the caves, close your eyes and try to find the real you. But that is also nonsense, and that is why I love Krishna consciousness and the teachings of Prabhupada, because it's very very practical. Nowhere, even in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna doesn't tell Arjuna you go to the Himalayas. He's in fact saying the opposite. He says do your duties, which is a lesson we should also learn. That means, Shohel, that we should not stop working. That means, Akanksha, don't stop doing your job as a parent, as a wife, as a citizen in this world. Whatever duties we have, we do it, we perform it, but the reason is different now. We perform it for offering it to the Lord. Now, supposing one person is a doctor, it's not like he should stop performing it and go to the hills and sit in meditation and smoke charas and realize God. That's not what's being said. No, a personalist does, he knows his position at the eternal servitor of Lord. We know that the real essence, Jiva Swarup hoy Krishna Nitya Das. That means Jiva, living entities, the real position in this world is the servitors of Krishna. We are all instruments in God's plan. So we should simply go on performing our duties with Krishna as the object, Krishna as the desire, Krishna as the source of enjoyment. We do all these activities and offer it to Krishna. It's not like we completely give it up. A person who's sitting and sitting in meditation, and a soldier who's fighting for his country so that the citizens can live in peace and harmony, they, even the soldier is as saintly as the person sitting in the hills. Why? Because the soldier is doing things according to his duty, as his prescribed duties. Now you may ask, like, I personally work in a IT company and all that, so you say, how do I offer that to Krishna? How can I do all of this in Krishna, offer this to Krishna? Or I'm a student in computer science or law, psychology, whatever. How do I offer this to Krishna? This doesn't fall into my sense of understanding. How do we do that? So everything, even the result of that action, can be offered to Krishna. For example, I work in a company, I get some salary. We can offer some money as charity to the temple, or make society a better place, try to uplift someone else by our actions, go on doing a duty and offer the results to Krishna. You, if you have a family, it is your duty to look after them. It's not like you can completely now neglect your family and go on living your life and be so-called be in the delusion that you're in so saintly and such a holy person that all of this daily activities is not important for you anymore. No, that's not what's being said. You continue doing your activities, but in Krishna consciousness, knowing yourself to be the servitor of Krishna, knowing that Krishna is the one that needs to be pleased. Every action that we do, we offer it to Krishna. That is akarma. A good example of akarma is people who, like, supposing you offer prasadam to God. What is that? You're cooking food, you're taking the time out buying ingredients, but none of them are actually for your own pleasure. It's all being done as a devotional service to offer to the Lord. You're cooking food and then you offer it to the Lord, and then you take it as prasadam. That's what the Vedas also do. They try to convert your regular, fruitive activities into bhakti. That is what bhakti means. Bhakti means devotional service, and we can make everything in our activities, offer it to God, and it becomes devotional. We do not have to become so-called renunciants and so-called monks and all that. If you're a student, you study, that's a devotion, and that's the service that you're doing to your family. And in general, if your family is happy, even God is happy. You study, if your parents have invested money in your education, you go and study and make sure that money is well invested. If you have a child, you look after this upbringing. If you're a wife, then you look after your husband. If you're a husband, you look after your wife and the welfare of your family. If you're working, then you work hard. You work because you're getting paid for it, and you don't do it for your own son. It's not like I ask so many people, why are you still working? Aren't you bored of this job? Oh, for money. And what will you do with this money? Oh, I will drink, I will buy a bigger car and all that. All those material desires, if you keep on having material desires, you keep on going to suffer and incur the reactions of those activities. When we offer it to Krishna, we continue our activities as it is, but we offer the results to Krishna. Our entire goal, a transcendentalist is simply enjoying transcendental happiness in discharge of his service. He's not doing it for some material gain, for some selfish gain. He's simply doing it as a service to the Lord. Everything that he does is engaged in the Lord. He has no selfish desire. He has no use of sense gratification. He's simply doing it as a duty and as a service to the Lord. And the sense of eternal servitorship to Krishna makes one immune to all sorts of reactionary elements of work. So Krishna killed so many people in the battle of Kurukshetra, but he didn't incur any sinful reaction. Why? Because he did it as service to the Lord, or as per the instruction of Krishna. So that's what's being said. Now we might ask that what are these so-called duties that we need to perform? If you keep on saying prescribed duties, what are these prescribed duties? In the Vedas, it's very clearly given that the society should work according to Varna Ashrama Dharma. Now, what does Varna mean? Varna is broken down into four categories: Brahmin, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra. Brahmin are the intellectual part of society. Kshatriya are the administrative part of society. So Brahmanas could be your scientists, your doctors, your advisors, your spiritualists. Kshatriyas are your administrative people, your politicians, the prime minister, people who are, army men. They are Kshatriyas. In olden times it used to be king. In modern society we don't have kings. Then you have vaishyas, who are your business people, who are economists basically. They look after merchandise and all of that. That is vaishyas. And then shudras are people who are simply serving these classes. So like a vaishya has a business, and then a shudra is working in that. Now none of them are derogatory. It's not like if you're a shudra you're lower than this person or something like that. That's a misconception that we have. It's each of them work in accordance to each other. They all, in a none of them can operate. Each varna is as important as each other. All of them need to function together for the society to operate. Now, based on what varna you are, you take a profession according to that. Like if you're an intellectual person, a brahmin usually used to go into teaching profession, educating about certain realizations. That was a brahmin. A kshatriya was somebody who, is more administrative. He used to get into that type of dharma. However, in modern society, and then what is ashrama? Now there are four types of ashrama again. Ashrama, the first one is your grihast ashrama, which is all of us basically. Grihast ashrama is householders, people who have a family, who maintain a family, and all of that. They continue their household activities. However, they are performing their spiritual duties in accordance to that. Their household duties also are devotional service, but they're basically family owners, family householders. Then there's brahmacharis. Brahmacharis are people who have who don't take, like men don't take up wives. Brahmacharinis are women who don't take up husband. They simply engage their life and their activities for God realization. Then there is what do you call vanaprastha. Vanaprastha is retired life, where people after the age of 50, they give up their, so if from grihastha eventually everyone has to go to vanaprastha, which is they give up their daily family activities, the householding activities, and they go into God realization. They travel into dhams, spiritual places. They spend time reading shlokas. Their entire remaining part of their life, the first half is going in maintaining family. Once that is done, the latter part of their life, the retired part of their life, is dedicated to God realization. And the last category is sannyasis. Sannyasis are people who give up all sorts of action, all sorts of material desires, and they simply supposed to first be experts in spiritual knowledge, and then they travel from place to place providing that spiritual knowledge. For example, Srila Prabhupada, who was a sannyasi, he went from country to country. He used to not like he used to travel so many countries and just spread the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita. That's what a job of the sannyasi is. Now all of us, society according to the Vedas only functions if each and every member of that society is following the varna ashrama dharma. However, in today's society there's no varna ashrama dharma. Nobody even knows what varna ashrama dharma is. Nobody knows what brahman, shudra, vaishya is. People are simply doing activities as it is. So in this sort of society, in this sort of mixed up society where there's no varna ashrama dharma, how does one know what is his prescribed duties? uh, and that's where the chanting of Hare Krishna comes in, because Hare Krishna was given in this Kali Yuga, where they knew that this Varnashrama Dharma and all these Vedic scriptures are not going to be followed. It's being completely, bifurcated. Nobody knows the meaning or anything. People in today's time don't even think about God realization. None of they you think all tell them all of this, they act like it's something very new. In ancient society, that's how things used to work. Everything was dedicated to God. A king, even though he was a king, he thought of himself as a servitor to God. He used to perform all his actions in accordance to God. Brahman, all these classes of society, they used to work for the main objective of God realization. In today's society, nobody does that. People are simply doing it for sense gratification. So in this society, how then we perform akarma? How do we perform, transcendental activities which do not give us fruitive reaction? That is done simplest way by chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. This is the simplest activity, and it's deliberately given for people of this age, where there is no sort of dharma, no regulative principles, no nothing. People are just doing things as about. So for them, this process is given. We are serving the Lord. How? Because this entire this we are constantly engaging our senses, our tongue, in the glorification of God. Constantly we are chanting the holy names. This mantra is so powerful that if we continuously chant this, eventually the soul breaks free from his false ego, this attachment to the body, and he gets realization of his real ego, which is he is nothing but part and parcel of the Lord. He's an instrument of the Lord's plan, and hence then he perform all his actions become a karma. He starts performing everything without gaining any negative sinful result. Everything is done as a service to the Lord. When he eats food, he offers it as prasadam, then he takes it. When he's singing songs, he's not listening to any sort of songs, he's doing kirtans, for example. All his activities. Now, like for example, Prabhupada used to be accused that, Prabhupada, you guys are supposed to be renunciant, but you're driving in a Rolls Royce, and you're traveling so many countries and taking airplane tickets, and you have microphones, cameras, all of that. So isn't this hypocritical? He said, how's this hypocritical? Nobody's traveling in airplanes for their own pleasure or anything. Everything is done to preach Krishna consciousness, to preach the message of the Lord, as a service to the Lord. So none of it. Prabhupada had no intention of traveling in a Rolls Royce. Whatever was offered, and whatever he means he had, he did it. There were also times when he used to walk barefoot to preach. Then when the movement took up, he's traveled in a Rolls Royce. So basically, you perform all your activities, and even if you have material things, it's not like you give up them. It's not like you throw your phone in the ocean and say, from now on I'm a renunciant, I will give up everything. You use everything in the service of the Lord. You use every activity in your daily life as a service of your Lord. From whether it be food, whether it be your from finance, everything can be offered to the Lord. Only then it becomes a karma activity which does not uh, have any sort of sinful reaction to it. Yes, Aditya.
I don't know if I'm getting it right. Like offering it to Lord means setting an intention in your mind that, hey Krishna, I'm doing it for your pleasure to make you happy. Is it like that, or do you do it in a different way?
So for prasadam, see, this I'll get on in the later classes about like proper like how to offer prasadam and all that. But however,
Oh no, not
even
prasadam. Did I say
then
prasadam?
no. So then, what was your question? I didn't understand that then probably.
Oh no, like offering it to Lord, like
Like
work.
all your activities.
Yes.
Yeah. See, it's
Sorry
about
if I
keeping
said
the intention.
prasadam. I didn't mean
No,
to
no,
say
no, no. I
prasadam.
think I misunderstood it. My bad. I'm saying that all activities, whether it can be work, whether it can be eating, whether it can be money, all of them are offered to the Lord. It can be done mentally, absolutely. After working very hard, supposing you do a job which has nothing to do with devotional service to the Lord, you work in, like I said, I work in IT. How do I offer it to the Lord? You can sit there mentally and say, my Lord, whatever work I've done in this period, I offer the result to you. And that is also offering the results to the Lord. So basically what it is going from selfishness to selflessness, where now you are no longer attracted by the result of that desire. You're offering everything to the Lord. When you sit and eat food, it's not like, oh, nice pani puri is there, I want to eat it, or nice food is there, how do I eat it? You offer that to your Lord. Everything mentally also can be offered to the Lord. That's one good thing, because the Paramatma, the Supreme Lord, also resides in your heart. So the Lord is in you basically. That I think we should touch on the next one. That's also a very interesting chapter, where the Lord says that He, as in the form of Paramatma, is in everyone's heart, and He knows your intention. He knows your desires. So even every activity you do, you can lie to everyone, but you can't lie to God, because God is in your heart. He knows the intention of what you're doing. So if you're even working very hard, but with a genuine, sincere desire, you say that God, all this work that I've done, I offer the result to you. Immediately, two things happen. First, you are no longer attached by the result of that activity. It's not like you're waiting for my salary so that I can enjoy you. That goes away. That identification with the false ego comes down. Second is it becomes a karma. Then now you've offered that to the Lord. Now it's done in the service of the Lord. How now you can say, like for example, I work, what how can I serve? You can always donate. even if you see in the long term perspective, you can use it for some betterment of the society only. You make money, you can use that to, provide for your family. How's that a wrong thing? It's not like just because you're in bhakti that means you can't look after your family. Absolutely you should look after your family, absolutely you should make money so that you and your family are well to do. However, you don't have any selfish desires now. It's not like you want to enjoy materially or you want to please your body. You're doing it as a service to the Lord. You're performing your activities, but the resultant action is for the Lord. And we can also engage in activities which are akarma, like chanting, reading Bhagavad Gita. All of them are akarma. Akarma means, again, activities which do not incur sinful reaction. There's no reaction, good or bad. These are transcendental reactions. All these activities lead to the goal of human life, which is God realization, Atma Tattva, understanding of what is Atma Tattva. So, if, to answer your question, Aditri, if we do any sort of activity, whether it be eating, whether it be working, whether it be painting, whether it could be singing, everything can be offered to the Lord. Even in you, if you close your eyes and in your mind you say, "Oh Lord, I have offer this activity to you. The result of this activity is to you." That is also uh, good enough. That is a karma, that is in action, because the Lord knows your intention. The Lord knows the intention of everything that you do because he is in your heart. So he understands the objective behind why things are done. He doesn't see the direct action. For example, one good example was, which I loved, was when the Ram Setu was being made from Bharat to Lanka. Hanumanji was picking up heavy mountains and making the bridge, because they were making a pathway from India to Lanka, so that Ram and his Vanar Sena could go to Lanka and fight the demon Ravana. So while they were making that bridge, it was a very complex engineering project. Hanumanji was picking up huge mountains and making that pathway, and very quickly he was making that bridge. Whereas once Hanumanji was picking up a heavy rock and he was flying, and he saw a small spider like pushing a small pebble with his like tiny little hands, and Hanumanji immediately like started shouting and chastising the spider that, what are you doing? Why are you so slow? What, look at me, I'm picking up heavy rocks and you're picking up the small pebble. You have to contribute. Why you're not doing enough? He started like shouting. And then immediately when Ram saw that, he chastised Hanuman. He said, you are able to pick up this heavy rock. You are doing the best in your ability to in my service. You're picking up this heavy rocks because you are capable, you have the ability to do that. The spider is doing the best in his ability, for his ability and for his bodily features. The picking up a pebble is equal to you picking up a rock. So as long as a person does the best in his ability, with a pure heart, with a simple heart, with a heart full of devotion towards the Lord accepts it, whether it be a huge mountain or be a pebble. Now, the point in that being said is that you don't necessarily need to, go out of your way, like completely become a monk and sit in the hills and all that. The Lord is not pleased with that. Lord is pleased with the intention behind which you're doing. You can do something simple. Like I've seen one small girl had come to the ISKCON temple, and she had got one small apple with her and she put it in the altar. And like some lady had asked in the temple that, why you put this apple? Like people usually when they're donating, they offer like big 1 kilo bags of rice and dal and a full big basket of fruit, something like that. All big donations. The girl said that this is what I had in lunch. I didn't eat it because I wanted the Lord to have it. And with such a simple heart, she gave it. And obviously, the Lord accepts it. There are so many stories in the scripture also where when somebody does something with devotion, with a pure heart, with a heart simply to please Krishna, Krishna immediately accepts. That's why if you see, okay, let's see if you can find this verse. Patram pushpam phalam toyam. Let's see who finds that verse, and whoever finds this verse, you can. Who found it? Aditya, you found that verse? Patram Pushpam Phalam
No, I
Toyam.
didn't. I just know this
Find that
verse
verse.
now.
Find that verse. You go on the last page. You can see like all the Sanskrit verses. You can just find you can track the verse. Patram Pushpam Phalam Toyam. Patram.
9.26.
That's correct. Who said that? Priya? Very good. Priya, can you
Yeah.
read it? Can you read the translation? Translation.
Translation.
Patram pushpam
If
phalam toyam. Yeah, go ahead.
if one offers me with love and devotion a leaf, a flower, a fruit, or water, I will accept it.
Can you read the first line again?
If one offers me with love and devotion a
Yes,
leaf,
that's
a
that's it.
flower,
With love
fruit,
and devotion, make sure with love and devotion, if somebody offers me a leaf, a flower, a fruit, or water, I accept it. So the main part is love and devotion. That's the main intent behind it. All your actions should be done with love and devotion. So Aditri, even if you work very hard and all, with love and devotion, if you go to the Lord and you say that I offer these the result of this activity to you, he accepts it. It's not like you can do whatever you feel like and just say, "Oh Lord, take it." It's not going to work. He won't
How does
accept it
it
like that.
work? Like sometimes if I forget and then at night
Mhm.
before going to sleep, all of a sudden I remember, oh, maybe I should have done this. I should have said I offered, but can I like before going to sleep say
Yeah,
that, hey Krishna,
yeah.
I forgot
It's
to mention
see,
that, but
it's
now
not
I'm
very
mentioning it.
mechanical. It's not like mechanically we have to just say, "Oh, I just offer it, Krishna," like that. It's over a point of time we have. It's the realization. Use our intelligence and realize the fact that pleasing this material body, pleasing this body of the six senses is not going to, five senses is not going to please us. It's just it's false ego. We are attached to this body, and this attachment to body is getting us more and more entangled in this material world, which is causing all our suffering. So over a point when we realize that there's nothing we can do for ourselves which is actually going to give us pleasure, naturally then all your activities become turned toward, then you start asking that how do I feel pleasure? How do I, what's the source of pleasure for us then if this pleasing our senses is not working out? Naturally you'll come to the understanding that only when you perform activities in pleasure of the Lord, that gives the person also pleasure themselves. Like for example, a mother, when she feeds the child, even though she is not eating the food, she is getting a lot of pleasure serving the child. The child is eating and the mother is saying, oh wow, my, like, look at my small child is sitting and eating the food. Whole night the mother sits and cooks food for the child, and the morning she sees that the child is eating, she feels a lot of pleasure. When the person who's serving gets more pleasure, that's how service to the Lord works, where the servant feels more pleasure than the person who's enjoying the service. That's what Srimati Radharani also is. She, her entire life, she is completely for Krishna. Her in every action that she does is only for as an offering to Krishna, and that's why she's always in transcendental bliss. Anybody like you see people who are doing service in the kitchen. I see people who come like from Blue Mountains all the way to North Sydney to do some service, say, service in the ISKCON kitchen. Like they'll be doing some sweeping or something. You might be thinking, what is wrong with this person? He's coming all the way from such a far place to ISKCON, that too not to enjoy or anything. That he's coming and sweeping the floor, he's coming and cleaning utensils, he's coming and cooking food. What's wrong with him? But you're not able to understand he's enjoying transcendental pleasure, where he's enjoying he's in complete bliss in doing that. When you serve the Lord, it gives you different types of happiness, it gives you a different sense of satisfaction, which you will never get in doing any activity for your selfish needs. They say like in Hindi we have a very common saying, खुशियाँ ने क्या खाना बांट के ज्यादा खुशी मिल, something like that. I forgot the thing, but it basically means to say that if you sit and eat alone, you won't get as much happiness as if you share it with everybody. If you invite few people and you say, hey, come, I've got this food, why don't we all share it and eat it? That gives you actual pleasure. So the same thing is, when you are doing any activity, don't do it for yourself. Do it simply, while performing the activity, do it for Krishna. In that way you are not affected by the good or bad of that activity. You're not affected even in your work. If you're having a tough time or something, it's not going to affect you, it's not going to upset you mentally also, because you're completely devoid of any selfish desire of some material gain that you have no gain from that. You're simply doing it for the pleasure of the Lord. So when you're doing things for the pleasure of the Lord, whatever comes your path, it's not you're going to be untouched by it, you're not going to be affected. If you see a lotus flower, it's growing in the dirtiest places, in swamp areas which are completely filthy. But the lotus flower is untouched by it. It's just growing so beautifully and completely untouched by the swamp water. water. That's similarly how a person, when he's doing akarma activities in a transcendental position for the pleasure of the Lord, whatever activities he's doing, he's completely untouched by the sinful reactions of it or by the material gain or whatever he's going to get from it. He's completely unbothered. He's always in a transcendental platform of 24/7. He's in bliss because he's doing it for the pleasure of the Lord. You notice it. You can do this experiment on yourself. Whenever you do an activity for some selfish desire, it's not going to give you happiness. Deep down, it's going to give you more attachment. You buy a car. Now you might think that I'm very happy. Tomorrow there's one small scratch in the car, your entire week will go ruin. You'll always be thinking, oh, now I have to get insurance, that. For anything, when we do it for our own pleasure, it's always going to cause more attachments, and when you get more attachments, there's more suffering. However, you do the same thing for the Lord, do a simple service for the Lord, it's going to give you pleasure. And that's what, like, a person who's doing DT worship and a person who's sweeping the floor in the kitchen, both of them are equal in the eyes of God. Both of them are performing their services as good. Both of them are equally happy. A person who's sitting in the mountains and meditating, and a person who has a family and raising kids and performing all that activity to maintain his family as a service of the Lord, that, oh my Lord, you've given me a beautiful family, that I'm blessed to have. Now it's my duty to look after them and to provide for them, and I'm doing it for your pleasure. Then naturally that person is unaffected. Then any small problem he can easily handle because he's unaffected by the result. So that's what it's saying. Action in inaction. Just because a person is, not physically doing anything, it's not like he's inactive. There's nothing called sitting and doing nothing, because even nothing has got some sort of karmic reaction to it. So action in inaction. You sit and do japa, you might think, oh, what is this? I can be doing something and benefiting society and all that. No, sir. Japa is also a transcendental activity which is given, approved and verified by the scriptures. And action in inaction, where just because you are, a saintly person, just because you're doing bhakti, does not mean that you give up everything, give up your activities, don't, use a laptop, don't use a car. Use all of these things, but do it simply for the service of the Lord. That's how you do it. You can do it with a simple, honest heart, a heart full of devotion. Given the time, I think we'll be concluding the class. Anybody has any questions or any corrections for me? Happy to listen. We can quickly go through some questions. Shohel, Akanksha, Priya, Aditri, any questions? Anything which was not clear to you so I can explain? You can unmute them. Okay, I think I
Nothing in
must have.
particular. I think we are all good.
Good. All right. Okay, so Uh, from next class, we're going to keep this pattern where I'll send the verse in advance in the group, and then you guys can speak for like 5-10 minutes about what your realization or your understanding was. And the reason why I'm saying this is this will also encourage all of us to start reading or in more depth, because when we have to speak about it, then we really have to understand. Otherwise, we just brush through the praises. But when we try to read, when we have to explain to others, then we really try to understand and get the true meaning of it. So, and it also gets us into the good habit of reading, which is akarma, no activity done in devotional service. So, yeah, I'll be sending the words in the group. Also, if you guys have any like questions which maybe you don't want to ask publicly, or like some sort of question like which is outside the class, when like you have some question about a particular verse or something, my number is on WhatsApp. You can always message me, like, I have this doubt, like maybe about chanting, maybe about prasadam, something like that. Whatever doubt you have, you can always ask me or Ghanshyam Prabhu, and we can text you. So you are not unclear on anything. Even in Bhagavad Gita, if you come across a verse or something which goes above your head, always shoot a message. More than happy to reply. I'm available. Even though I'm working, I can always hit you a message. So we did what we call action and inaction. In fact, this verse was actually requested by Aditri. She said that I can we do this verse, so that's why we're doing this verse. That's a very good verse. So if you have any suggestions for the verse for next week, you can always shoot me a message. Hey Ayush, I'm interested in this particular topic, so you can let me know. We can talk about it next week. However, I'm thinking we can talk about Paramatma and Atma, understanding the body and the position of the soul and the super soul. That's a very interesting topic, so I think we will touch on that. But in case you have any suggestions, questions, I'm happy to listen. So that is the thing. Yeah, once last example I'll give before we end the class is, if you don't even need to be poor to, be, a lot of people have this misconception that to become spiritual you need to become poor, you need to give up all your thing, not look up to making money and all that. Who said so? You should be, you can earn money. In fact, you should be looking to earn money. This is a good age, we are all young and all that, and Australia is a land of opportunity, so we should not shy away and give this fake excuse of bhakti to, give up our hard work and endeavors. We should make money. We should, in fact, be very ambitious with money, but use it in the service of the Lord. And the best example is Adani. Adani is like a very big billionaire in India. He's like, I think, the richest man in India, if I'm not wrong. He's probably the richest man in India, or at least one of the richest men. He's a very, very rich person. Even he, even though he's earned so much money, he has that idea of, he knows that all this activity eventually is a blessing that is given to me by God, and it needs to be done in the service of Lord. So now the Mahakumbh is happening in Prayagraj, where like 6 crore people come, like a lot of millions of people come in that area, and it's like a spiritual event. And Adani is tied up with ISKCON, and he's sponsoring the prasadam. He's paying, using his money to feed the Brahmins and feed the people who have come here. So it's not like you should shy away from making money or think that I have to be poor, or okay, I will live in minimalistic lifestyle and all that. Be ambitious, be, hardworking. Nobody's telling you to stop that, but your intention and your cause should be towards the Supreme Lord, offering it to the Supreme Lord. How can I use my resources and my abilities for the pleasure? If you're a good speaker, you preach to people. If you're a good cook, you cook food in the kitchen for like other devotees. You can use each of us have got some skill and some individuality that is only special to us, and we should use that in the service of the Lord. And the best service is chanting of Hare Krishna. So also next class, if you guys could share me, if you are chanting, how many rounds are you chanting and how much are you reading, so I know like what where we all stand. And yeah, because that will help me chanting, and chanting in a regulated amount will really, you will start seeing the effects of chanting. Chanting is something only people, when they do it, they'll start realizing it's something that you can't really say in words. So try to chant as much as you can, keep it in the morning part of it, try to read as much as you can, and then very soon all this knowledge will start falling into the heart on its own. So thank you so much for joining. That's the end of the class. If you have any questions or any suggestions of verses, you can hit me a WhatsApp message. Okay, you can chant Hare Krishna and log off. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
class, and then by the time I reach home, it's like pretty late. Same with Tuesday when I come for the kids, and by the time I reach home, it's pretty late. But in general, yes, that will definitely be a main objective to get the sleeping and waking up times correctly.